This evening we have the incredible virtuosic pianist from Portland, Oregon. I've known him since he moved to, well, since he was in London and I moved to London in 2015 for a little bit of time, and then back permanently in 2017. And it was a great pleasure to meet him. Back then he was already impressive, but every year here at Whitley Bay, I think we hear more nuance, more interesting sides to the many talents of Andrew Oliver.
I'm going to repeat what Andy said last night. The theme of my solo set this year is things I like to play. And that was, of course, Kinklets by Arthur Marshall, a great rag written in something like 1905 or 6. Somebody probably knows. I forgot to look it up. Anyhow, Arthur Marshall was a friend of Scott Joplin's. Joplin actually lived at his house for a little while, and he moved to St. Louis. And I went to St. Louis this year for the first time in August, and had a great time playing with TJ and many of our other friends here. Andy was in town, Mike Davis, and others. We had a really wonderful time down there, and it was great to explore that amazing city. There's so much jazz history there, and music history, and ragtime history as well, that it inspired me to go back a little bit into the books of ragtime that I played when I was much younger. And also, since Morten Gunnar Larsen is not here this year, I feel that I can play a couple of rags, because Morton always plays such great rags. But in his absence, I'm going to play one more rag for you. And this is a rag by Joseph Lamb, who was, of course, one of the favorites of our dearly departed friend Keith Nichols, who I think rightfully regarded his ragtime as perhaps the most harmonically complicated and really beautiful, unusual ragtime music. So this is a song that he wrote, I think around the same time, 1908 or 9, and it's called Excelsior, which is a very dramatic name for a sort of mellow piece, but okay, whatever. I like the title. Here we go. Thank you very much. Next I'm going to play a piece, perhaps unsurprisingly, by Willard Robeson. As if you hadn't had enough last night. I was, obviously doing a bunch of research and found a piece, a sort of folio of, I think, 5 little pieces that he wrote for piano solo and published in MCMXXVI, 1926. And they're a little bit impressionistic, and not as impressionistic as the amazing music we heard last night from Andy, but They have sort of interesting titles about various places. There's one about Rio de Janeiro, and there's one about China. I don't know. They're sort of like little syncopated etudes. And he writes it in the little introduction to the folio, that it's very important to play. It's interesting. He said it's very important to play the grace notes correctly and the clusters of notes correctly. So pay attention to where I've written clusters of notes. I think things like this can give you an interesting insight into the mind of a composer and a pianist, because there's a lot of things going on in these little pieces, and there's actually not that many clusters of notes. But maybe that means that where there are clusters of notes was what he thought was the important part of the piece. Anyway, it was kind of interesting that it's the only direction that he gives you in the introduction. Yet more confusing insights into the mind of Willard Robeson. Anyhow, I'm going to play one of these for you. It's called Amarillo, and it has some licks that we heard last night incorporated into some of the American Suite pieces and some other kind of bluesy material. So I hope you enjoy Amarillo by Willard Robeson. Another hipster ending. All right. I'm going to take a little detour, quite some distance down to Buenos Aires, and play you a nice tango, which was written in 1930 by Alfred Rodeo and Celedonio Flores. And this tango is called Maldita, which means cursed. And it was recorded by a very great tango orchestra led by the pianist Carlos Di Sarli, who was one of one of the main tango orchestra leaders of the 1920s, and his career progressed into the 1930s and 40s when he had a much bigger orchestra. In the 20s, he had a sextet with typical tango instrumentation, a couple of bandoneon, so accordions, and violins and bass. He had a much bigger orchestra in the 1940s, which was very popular and played for dancing, and has made many recordings which people still dance to today. But in the 20s, his band played in a bit of a more straight style, and not entirely as simple as it was on the sheet music, but a little bit sort of more, a little less rhythmically complicated than the style became in the 1940s. So in addition to playing old-style jazz at home in Portland, one thing I also do a lot is to play for tango dances. And we have a great tango dance scene in Portland, surprisingly perhaps, because of some sort of influential tango dance instructors who started some social dancing, and a great scene in Portland about 20 years ago. So now there's an amazing community. There's a dance hall just down the street from my house where I play pretty regularly. So I thought I would just show you a bit of this other side of my musical life, and hope you enjoy this tango from 1930 called Maldita. Play a couple more quick tunes. And I'm going to make a little geographical connection and bring us back to the jazz world here with a song called The Dallas Stomp, which was written by Don Bester, who had a dance band, made a lot of arrangements in the 1920s. It was written in 1926 and published by the Melrose Brothers Company, who published Jelly Roll Morton's music and many other hot tunes. And this tune was not recorded in the 20s except by one obscure band from Argentina. which made a record of the stock arrangement in 1926 or 7, and it's a really weird little piece. It has many sections which seem unrelated, but I've tried to make a new arrangement in the style of a Jelly Roll Morton piano solo, as you might expect, and we haven't heard a lot of Jelly Roll Morton this weekend, and I feel it is my obligation, since I spent a lot of time studying his music and still love to play it all the time, to bring a little of the Morton vibe here. So I'll give you the Dallas Stomp. It's probably all I have time for anyway, so I'll leave it at that. Dallas Stomp in the style of Jelly Roll Morton. Now, just say also, again, as always, thank you to Jonathan, Patty, and Michael, and Colin for having me back here again. It's always a pleasure to come here every year for the past, 6 or 7 years, however long it's been that I've been coming here. And as Michael said, one of the most amazing things about this festival is the opportunity to not only propose new ideas and try new things out with such amazing musicians, but also to be able to sort of have a little bit of a conference with everyone and learn new things, try out new ideas. I think we all push each other to get better every year, and it's sort of become really integral for me anyway in sort of growing as a musician every year. So thanks again for having me, and it's nice to be here with you all, and I hope you enjoyed the Dallas Stomp. Stay tuned, big Durham. Much more music to come. See you later.